Culture. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Culture is a word that gets thrown around in sports, in life. What's the culture? Culture differences. A throat culture. Culture's been a word around the World Baseball Classic for 20 years. Culture's been a word around baseball for 100 years. Culture is meant to give a frame of reference to a conversation and conversationalists. It's meant to explain differences in passion. It's meant to explain differences in how you approach a conversation about a person, a place, or a thing. The reason culture's on my mind is that that's all I'm hearing about as it relates to the World Baseball Classic, the culture of Latin American baseball. The Venezuelan fans, the Dominican fans, the Puerto Rican fans, the Japanese fans, the Korean fans, the United States of America fans. When you go to Marlins Park, now called Lone Depot Park, and you put the World Baseball Classic in Miami, you are doing it because Miami is a city that embraces all different cultures. Miami is a very different city than most in the United States. It's a very different city than most in the world. The diversity that exists in Miami is celebrated by those in the know, and it's ignored by those who don't understand the reality of Miami. As you walk through Lone Depot Park for the World Baseball Classic Finals, which I did, and you see the excitement around the fans who are proudly wearing Venezuelan flags, painting their faces the Venezuelan colors. They're wearing World Baseball Classic Venezuelan hats. It is a level of culture that cannot be matched by the United States and by Americans. I don't want to get into a debate with anyone in the media, or any fans for that matter, about the subject of conversion, because I've discussed it and it's put to bed. I'm not going to tell you that any city can convert fans for a one-off event into a ticket holder for multiple events of a league where culture is not a part of it. You know the debate. You can make fun of it. You can make fun of Miami. You can show me a picture of Marlins Park that will not be crowded on a Wednesday in April versus what existed for the World Baseball Classic on Tuesday night. And it is not going to be meaningful to me, to the commissioner, to people in baseball, to the general manager of the Marlins, to the owner of the Marlins. It's just not comparable. That doesn't make either one of the two sides more important or less important. I absolutely love the World Baseball Classic. Not because it's more important than the World Series, as Eduardo Rodriguez said. Not because it's less important than the World Series, what Derek Jeter said. I can live in a world where they are both important at the moment that they happen. I could argue pretty persuasively that the World Series is unbelievable when you win. You get a ring. You get to talk about it forever. You get to think about it forever. You are bonded with the players on that team forever. But the importance of a World Series, it's all relative. Something happens in your life. You move on and you realize that, wow, work or passion or emotion or sports or politics or the plight of others, all of it takes second place at best to the plight of yourself. That, of course, is true of all atrocities that happen. When it doesn't happen to you, it impacts you less. When it happens to you, it becomes the most important atrocity that exists. The passion that you feel over a war, the feeling that you have not because you're in public or not because you don't want to go to the Oscars, whatever the reason is where you choose something, when it personally impacts you, it has a different feel. It has a different half-life. We will never match, as American fans of baseball, the culture, the passion that exists in Latin America. When I've been to Cuba, when I've been to the Dominican Republic, and you visit schools, you visit fields, you see kids playing, it's not like the United States. Whether you're in New York or Washington or Oregon, it doesn't matter. It's not close. There is something about the sport where you hear on the Venezuelan team that Garcia and Acuna are from the same town that's so tiny, that's produced 50 major leaguers. It's so disproportionate, it's hard to describe. It's the same thing as the United States if it were the size of Florida, with all the big leaguers who come from Florida, and say, wow, how can that be? When you go around the Dominican and you see how the people live, the majority not like in the United States. When you use the word third world country, that is a large word that has all sorts of implications and innuendos. But when I say it, I associate it with what is the level of importance of various events inside your home versus outside your home. In a third world country, there is not as much focus on what's going on outside because you've got issues of water, you've got issues of food, you've got levels of poverty that are found in pockets of the U.S., but pockets that are basically held at arm's length, that are ignored. In the Dominican Republic, you cannot ignore it. When I tell you that I wanted Venezuela to succeed in the World Baseball Classic, but I wanted the USA to win, the reason I wanted the USA to win is I'm an American and I was cheering for the US. When Venezuela won, I could both feel badly for my friend Mike Hill and the other players on the team, the same way I would feel badly for anybody who loses a match. But the truth is, when I woke up the next morning, which was yesterday, I had this feeling, Coca, that this Venezuelan victory that happened on Tuesday night is something that is so much more meaningful to Venezuelans than an American victory would have been to Americans. And what I felt like was at the end of my favorite comedy, Let It Ride, where people look into the sky and discuss for Jay Trotter, let the man have it. Let him have it. I felt that about Venezuela because when I saw the passion, when I saw, not just in the eyes of the fans, in the tears of Miguel Cabrera. Why was Miguel Cabrera, the hitting coach of Venezuela, crying? Because he had played in 5 WBCs and hadn't won and was now the hitting coach of Venezuela when they won? When you see Eugenio Suarez go to his knees after the final out, the strikeout of Roman Anthony by Palencia, going to his knees, not like Brandy Christian, going to his knees in prayer, in thankfulness to God. You hear not sort of the fake, that's me being cynical, Coca, I don't want to go down this road, but I've seen more players who put God first, except when they have other people in their bedroom. But when you hear about the religion, the piety, frankly, the understanding that their country needs this, I just can't manufacture that. And so, as the World Baseball Classic comes to an end, From a business standpoint, a huge success. Netflix $100 million deal in Japan. You've got the broadcast rights here in the United States. You've got MLB Network. You've got Fox, who treated the World Baseball Classic final round like it was the World Series. And they're doing that. And how do I measure that? I measure that by man hours. What attention is Fox giving to an event or any network? Believe me, you can tell with pre-production. You can tell with in-game production. You can tell with post-game production. The World Baseball Classic, we couldn't have dreamt over 20 years ago that it would build to this type of crescendo. But when you measure its success, don't look for the correlation to regular season attendance in a particular city or in the industry. Don't look to what happens with this CBA negotiation and whether or not there's a lockout or whether or not there are missed games. That's not the correlation to focus on. The business to focus on is far more long-term global strategy. Rod Manfred came out at the end of the WBC with a very interesting perspective when he talked about Japan and Korea and Netherlands and Venezuela and Dominican and Italy. His point was to make sure that you understood the global reach of our game has never been greater. The opportunity to bring in worldwide fans into our tent has never been more important as we look to build, and this part is always left out by Manfred or by Goodell, as we look to continue to expand our league revenues, having growth internationally is far more important than domestic fans or media understand. It is not a coincidence that Roger Goodell wants an international game every week. It is not a coincidence that having Team Italy get to the semifinals of the World Baseball Classic as an entree into bringing more games to Europe in the regular season. It is not a coincidence that the commissioner discusses that the Dominican Republic should get a major league ready facility going on that island because they will bring regular season games to the Dominican. None of this is a coincidence. Why? Because streamers want those events and they are willing to pay a premium for those types of events. The concept of building one-offs in an industry where it used to be about bulk, that is the biggest difference that you've seen other than the technological improvements in sports. The desire and the ability to sell one-off events exists today more than any other day, and tomorrow will be more than today. I was fascinated listening to Bryce Harper and Aaron Judge after the game. I was fascinated thinking about Aaron Judge being angry as he goes back to Tampa and joins Yankee spring training. As all the players disperse, including Ronald Acuna and Suarez and Garcia, they go back to spring training with their teams. They bring with them the gold medal, the silver medal that they ripped off their neck. They bring with them the experience of being a part of something. And then you are back to your family. You are back to reality. You are back to the grind that only begins 1 week from today. 1 week from yesterday for the Yankees and Giants. The intensity of spring training, opening day, regular season. It's not that you can't match it, because the intensity of a competition comes from within. It doesn't come from fans. As much as I'd like to say the Venezuelan players were absolutely motivated by the stands, it feels great to have fan support. It feels like you are wearing your country on the front of your jersey and you've got the weight of the country on your back. I understand that. But true greatness comes from within. You are motivated on a Tuesday in June. You are motivated on a Monday in October. The way that you can perform at the highest level on the biggest stage is having the ability to perform at the lowest level on the smallest stage. They go back to their spring training sites, the players who won, the players who lost, and they've got to get into their jobs. That's the part about Bryce Harper and about Aaron Judge that doesn't get talked about enough. The regular season, the playoffs, the World Series, spring training, this is their job. Not everybody likes their job. Not everybody gets excited every day of their job. Pretty much nobody brings the same energy every day to their job. It's really hard to do, which is why it gets noticed when there are those who do. When you see somebody doing their job with great enthusiasm every day, like Vince Vaughn as the boat captain in the breakup of the Duck Tour, you think to yourself, wow, that is an anomaly. I'm interested to hear about follow-up quotes. Bryce Harper, the Olympics matter more. Now, Bryce Harper, I will engage with the Venezuelans. I will congratulate them because this was so meaningful. Aaron Judge, we want this. This feels better than the World Series felt in terms of fans. Now he's angry and wants to put the uniform of USA back on so he can bring a victory. Mark DeRosa, the manager, says, hey, this was unbelievably painful for the American players who we accused of not caring, who we accused of not having fun, who we accused of not being as engaged as Venezuela because the cultures are different. How can you accuse somebody of not being something they cannot be? You can't ask the American team to be the Venezuela team or the team from the Dominican Republic. It's never going to happen. The comps to the Miracle on Ice or to Olympic hockey, it's about something so different that cannot be captured today. What do I think is going to happen now? Is that Major League Baseball will use the World Baseball Classic and its success as part of its negotiations for new broadcast deals. It becomes a data point. It leads to conversation about rule changes, about usage. Oh, by the way, don't blame anyone for Mason Miller not pitching for the U.S. and Garrett Whitlock getting the loss. That was the Padres saying, we will not let Mason Miller pitch. Hard stop. That's their right. DeRosa knew it before the game. Mason Miller knew it before the game. That was it. If there were a save situation, they would let Miller pitch. The minute the game is tied in the eighth, there is no more save situation. Miller's not pitching. The fact that the World Baseball Classic and the Venezuelan team had to convince Tom Ricketts and the Cubs to let Plasencia pitch, those are the type of rule changes you're going to see discussed. Those are the type of rule changes that you will see hopefully implemented because the effort that is made to communicate with the team is hard to imagine, and the excuses that have to be given, I don't know why we just don't tell the truth because teams don't want to be the bad guy ever. But the World Baseball Classic will be a catalyst to change. It'll be a catalyst to increased revenue. It'll be a catalyst to more streaming. It will be a catalyst to getting money into these countries to get more baseball players into the pipeline. It is exactly what we imagined it could be, and I loved being a part of its start. I loved being a fan for this most recent edition. I loved everything except the flight home, Coca. I got the news yesterday. Did you? I got the news. Thank God. The WNBA is saved. Whew. That was a big one. That was a tough one. We thought the league would fold because Dan Le Batard liked to clip that from a comment I made on his show or on the sporting class. Yeah, with no deal, there'd be no league. Wait a minute. The NBA owners don't care as much about the WNBA as you may think. Sorry. But there's a new CBA. Couple of things you should know as a talking point. You're going to read some numbers. That'll be good. You'll read the numbers from ESPN and the insider, the basketball insider, Shams. People are very upset today, by the way. That's too many times I've said that. Sorry, Coco. People are very upset about that because there are reporters who spent 8 days camping out there till 4 a.m. trying to get a update of how the negotiations were. There was someone named Alexa for ESPN who was getting the reports and who was giving them out. And then when a deal was done, it was disclosed and leaked by Shams. And people are very upset about that. Shams didn't put in the time. Why is Shams getting this? The reality of business, folks, Shams' platform, quite a bit bigger. There is a level of gravitas when Shams breaks something that Alexa and others just don't have. So if you have an opportunity and you are a league and you are a network and you are a platform, you want biggest news getting the biggest attention through your biggest platform. The equivalent is how rich people get richer because they get to use other people's money to invest, to make more money for themselves, or they take on debt where other people can't afford to take on as much debt, and you need money to make money, all the expressions you've heard. Well, when you have a big platform, it's way easier to make that big platform bigger than it is to make a small platform big. But if you look at the details of the WNBA, new CBA, I cannot imagine that any of you will be fooled by any of the players from Breanna Stewart saying this deal is going to be transformational to the VP, Alicia Clark, saying they just accomplished something that's going to change the lives of so many players, to the WNBPA president who said, we're proud of ourselves. We always told you all we were going to stand on, business. And that's what this looks like. Those are really good talking points. And as management, you're more than happy for your employees to have these talking points. Take the victory lap. But why don't you look at the details of the CBA? Because according to Shams, revenue sharing is not at 20%. The salary cap will go from $7 million, around $7 million to $10 million, up from $1.5 million. The minimum salary will be in the range of above 300 grand. Average salary around 600 grand. The WNBA players, they did get something. They got a raise. Boy, that's some kind of transformational. Most people get raises. Cost of living raise. Sometimes you get a catch-up raise. You get a multi-level raise. Sometimes you get a title change and no raise. Sometimes you get a title change and a small raise, no title change and a big raise. Sometimes you get something from someone and it was way less than they were willing to give, way less than they should have given. The victory lap for this, and please, Coca, this is not me being pro WNBA management or pro Adam Silver. I think you've heard my show long enough to know that I'm not that. But I am pro talking you through some of these PR nuggets that come out and really do frame the conversation for people who don't know better. Do I think that having a $10 million salary cap range at the end of a 7-year deal where the players only get an opt-out after year 6, do I think that that is some sort of thing to celebrate for players? I think what you celebrate is that, in theory, if you're making 300 grand which is around the minimum. You don't need to go play in Russia. I think we don't have to worry about Brittany Griner. I don't think this does anything to put Unrivaled out of business. I don't think this does anything to put any potential competitor of the WNBA out of business. The numbers that are being thrown about for this new CBA do not make it so the WNBA is now going to be the only league in town. The reason why the players did not get the victory that they sought, though it is the victory they were able to tell you they sought, is that Adam Silver and the WNBA owners never had a reason to move to the player demands, and the players knew it. We have to report on the interim things that happen. We have to tell you when Adam Silver sets a March 10th deadline, then Kathy Engelbert sets a March 17th deadline. We have to tell you about the way negotiations happen back and forth, how the leverage happens, how the issues get discussed in what order. Many people outside of the business of negotiating will have the same reaction to anything, really. Why can't we just cut to the chase? Why can't we just skip the next 5 back and forths and just give me your best offer right now? I'll give you my best offer. We'll split it in the middle, make an announcement. And why do we have to worry about a lockout or a strike or a delay or having a condensed off season or worry about getting 100 free agents signed in the WNBA? Why? People say that when they're negotiating to buy a house, when they're negotiating to buy a car. Why can't we just get to the end? The reason is that the end you want to get to is unattainable without the intermediate steps. You cannot manufacture back and forth by saying we've gone back and forth. You have to have the emotional feel in a business deal, which is I have nothing left to give, or I did my best, or it happened exactly the way I thought it would happen and I'm comfortable, or I didn't lose too badly. You don't get to a win without the steps that are needed through the valley of a loss. So don't panic during a negotiation, whether it's in professional sports, in your business, in your household, whatever the case may be. Don't panic at the ups and the downs that come with a negotiation, or the threats, or the tough words, or the feelings of inadequacy that you're going to fail and not get a deal done. All of those feelings are the steps on the way to a deal. The best kind of deal is when both sides leave with not everything they want. In the WNBA new collective bargaining agreement, I couldn't find one area where the WNBA management did not get what they want. They knew very well in their pro formas where salaries were going to go. And a tiny little secret for you, we don't really care much about the allocation within the union the way the union does. We are far more focused as management, what is the total cost? If you want to give more money to young people than old players, if you want to make it a totally equal pay where every player gets the same, we are focused as a consequentialist on the end number. Unions are super focused on the way the money is dispersed because unions are made up of young, mid, and older players. If you want an indication, because in our society we need it, who won, who lost, why don't you take a look at the offer from 5 months ago that the league made? They offered a minimum salary of $220,000, a maximum salary of $1.1. Guess where the deal ended up? Right around $300 for a minimum, right around $1.4 for a maximum. Do you think the WNBA back in November did not know where this was going to end? Did you think for 1 minute that they had not calculated that they were ending at 301.4? Just ask yourself that question, please. Now, I don't want to be negative. I'm happy. I'm happy there's going to be a season. I'm happy for the fans of the WNBA. I'm happy for the players, happy for the management. It's way better when you're done with one of these negotiations. It's better. But a victory lap? We didn't get to do it this week, but I want to remind you about So You Want to Talk to Samson. That's a segment where we take your questions and your voice gets to be on our show. I'll answer any question on any topic. It doesn't matter if it's sports, business, culture, entertainment. If you want to ask about my dog, don't have it. It'll be a short answer. Pick up the phone and dial 631-377-4869, and we will answer your questions. If you want to type them out, go to David P. Samson on Twitter. Get into the DMs. I'll try to find it. Go to davidsamsonpodcast.com. I'll try to find some emails. But the best way to be heard is to pick up the phone, 631-377-4869. I want to go to a review now, Coca. Have you ever had an experience where you are looking for something to watch and then something catches your attention for whatever reason, even though you didn't watch the trailer, but the little thumbnail picture that appears on your TV and then who the movie has? It happened to me with a movie called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Sam Rockwell is on my list of actors. If you're in it, I'm watching it. When I see that Juno Temple's in it, I'm thinking, hell yeah. Haley Lou Richardson, don't mind if I do. What's the movie about? I don't have the first idea. Play. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die is about someone, Sam Rockwell, who plays a character named A Man from the Future. It's about someone who comes back from the future in order to save our society from AI and from all of, it's not an action movie, and from all of the social media ills that are at our feet right now. The addiction, the screen time. Sam Rockwell looks like Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future during this movie when he's wearing the crazy headset. This is where pre-production would have mattered, Coca, because I could have had you come up with a picture of what Christopher Lloyd looks like versus what Sam Rockwell looks like, and it would have been funny for the audience watching right now live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. It would have been funny if you're on the DraftKings network, and if you're the audio audience, you would have had to picture it. It's sort of like an audio book. I'm picturing it. I love this movie so much that 1999 was a bargain. If you want to wait for it to be on one of your streaming services, fine. But if you want to be entertained by a movie about a man who comes back from the future to the present to try to explain to people that they are turning into zombies, it's not a zombie movie. It's not a Dracula movie. It's not a scary movie. It's not a horror movie. It is a clever, perfectly written, funny, important movie. I end the review with this question. How many times have you heard about screen time? Let's measure the screen time. I don't give my kids screen time. I try not to do screen time before I go to bed. I don't try to do screen time right when I wake up. You've heard about all this. That's all people talk about. Are you worried? Because you shouldn't be. Every single generation has a screen time topic, a screen time reality, something that is obsessive to that generation. Life finds a way to keep going. I don't mind being on TikTok for 6 hours every night. I'm going to watch this weekend a movie that did not get nominated for Best International Feature. It was supposed to be, but now that the Oscars are over, I'm going to watch it. It's called No Other Choice. I was told it was on my list of movies to watch for Oscars before nominations, that it would certainly get a bunch of nominations. It did get some Golden Globe and other love, but no Oscar love, but I'm going to watch it. It's called No Other Choice. Wait to see is when I tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. We have a document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. I encourage you to go to that website. If you want to buy the merch and wear it, great. If not, fine. If you want to watch past episodes, no problem. We've got those too. But if you want to see a list of every pick of the day, wait to see word of the day, we want to be accountable to you. We want to be different than the other shows, different than any of our competition who just spews nonsense and then forgets about it. How many other shows are going to tell you that on August 8th, 2025, that's right, 7 months ago, I told you David White would become the permanent executive director of the NFLPA. And I'm wrong. David White is not the permanent director. Instead, the NFLPA elected JC Tretter as the new executive director, and I nearly fell out of my glove chair. The fact that JC Tretter was able to secure the votes from a players' union where JC Tretter was responsible, along with the former executive director, for the most unscrupulous, the worst representation possible for a union, that Roger Goodell and the NFL owners are so happy right now that the union is stuck not in neutral, they're stuck in reverse. When you go back to a leader like JC Tretter, and if you don't know what he did and what he stands for, then you're not paying attention, and you're certainly not watching Pablo Torre Finds Out or listening to Nothing Personal. When I thought that JC Tretter was gone, it occurred to me, there's no way they're stupid enough to bring him back. It can't be. When I read the player representatives had voted for him, forget the fact that he was one of 3 finalists. I can't even. How do you stop people from doing something that you know is not going to help them, but they don't see it? I think about that a lot with my kids. I think about that a lot with friends, and I think about it a lot with myself. There's been many things over the course of my life that I thought I had right, that I was told by people I had wrong, and I didn't pay attention until it became wrong, and then I realized, wow, I was wrong to start with. The reason why JC Tretter got elected is the comfort that the players' representatives and the players themselves had with what they viewed as an unfair resignation by him in the wake of what Lloyd Howell did and what he was accused of. What they are not willing to understand is that his representation and his, shall we say, existence within the union was part of the coordinated effort not to bring power to the players, but to take power away from the players, not to give information to the players, but in fact to keep information from the players. When you read that they believe they conducted a thorough, deliberate search to identify the right long-term leader to deliver sustained, meaningful progress for our members, you know that that quote was not written by anybody from the Board of Player Representatives. You know that that statement was done by the old regime, by JC Tretter, in order to possibly explain how he was able to goat players into believing that this made sense strategically. A word to the wise: when you do something that your negotiating opposite believes is the best possible thing, then you've done the wrong thing. When JC Tretter comes out with a statement, this really got me, Coca. I understand the responsibility that comes with this role and how important it is to stand shoulder to shoulder with player leadership. You were part of it before and you didn't do it then. Now you're going to do it when you've got the power? This union has always played a critical role in shaping the game, and that work is as important now as it's ever been. I am motivated and ready to run through a wall. This union is positioned to really handle the 18-game negotiation. They are really positioned to handle the further expanse of international games. Remember, they've got a CBA that goes till 2030, and there's no outs. JC Tretter will acknowledge to you that his biggest thing is getting ready for the next CBA negotiation, which is not for many years, but also, hey, I'm going to get in there and really deal with the league as it relates to the 18th game. He said it. Here's the other way to know when the league's happy. Listen to Roger Goodell's quote, and this was a manufactured quote, but read between the lines and you can see how happy he is. We have worked with JC for several years. First as union president when he helped the league and the NFLPA successfully navigate through COVID. We look forward to building upon that relationship to further our shared priorities, including our commitment, this is Roger Goodell, including our commitment to advancing player health and safety and ensuring the global growth of our game for our fans, the players, and our clubs. When Roger Goodell puts fans, players, and clubs in order like that, he's burying the lead, because what he should have just said is, I look forward to ensuring the global growth of our game for our clubs. Throws in the fans because it's really important for the fans of the Houston Texans to have a game in Nicaragua. It is hugely impactful for players to get on a plane and schlep to London for a couple weeks for a little bit of, oh, crikeys, the cars are coming from the right. Give me a small break, Raj. You know that having JC in there is nothing but positive. 4869. I would like to congratulate JC Tretter on being the new executive director of the NFLPA after a long, very hard-fought campaign where they got it down to 3 finalists, one of whom was the interim director, David White. The players' rep and the board came to the conclusion after much deliberate thought and all sorts of information that JC Tretter was the right man for the job, and the union has strongly positioned itself going forward to have a seat at the table with Roger Goodell and the NFL owners as they navigate the future of this great sport of football. That okay, Coca? You got that? How about the NFL looking to hire replacement refs? It's a good one. It doesn't work in sports anymore. It used to work. This is back in the 80s, 90s, thousands. Hey, we'll get replacement players, man. You guys don't agree to our union deal. You don't agree to our new CBA. Screw you. We're going to get someone else to play second base. It's always my favorite. Air traffic controllers go on strike. Don't worry, we'll replace you. We got a line of people who want to be air traffic controllers. Where? Everybody online. It's Will Ferrell running naked through the street, streaking. There's no one behind him. You got to be careful how you exert and exhibit your leverage in a negotiation. Who's behind the NFL refs, would you think? When there was an issue in 2012 with the new CBA, with the new agreement with the refs, who were the replacement refs? A bunch of college refs, a bunch of lower professional league refs. They do it for a couple weeks, a couple missed calls. All of a sudden, you've got a deal. Do you know what's different now? Just out of, just between us. Do you know why unions are really against the ABS or against robot umps or against the ability to have a job calling the lines of a tennis match when now a computer does it and then you're fired? It's not about the fact that there are people behind you. It's about the concern that the technology behind you is going to make your job obsolete, that you're going to have to be reallocated into the workforce. The NFL refs better be careful here, because the number of missed calls by NFL refs versus replacement refs, it's not statistically meaningful enough to make the NFL cave to that part of their product. Because as much as you'd like to believe that the game is about the referees, if you're a referee, as much as we love looking at Ed Hochulai's biceps and triceps, and now his son too, as much as you want to believe that the referees with their calls of DPA, DPI, defensive pass interference, holding when every play could be a holding, the truth is, from the league standpoint, I'm sorry, but every referee is completely interchangeable. Just like in Major League Baseball, the umpires are the best of the best, but if you overstep your bounds, we'll find other people who are going to be the best of the best. There are two very important issues right now, and I want to help you understand them. That if there are replacement referees, there will be a lot of talk of, well, are they going to gamble on the games? Should we worry about gambling? The NFLPA, which is the Referees Association, has an executive director who tells Roger Goodell, you better not hire replacement refs. They're all going to gamble on games. You're going to have a big problem. And by the way, you care about player safety? None of the players are going to be safe. They won't have control of the game. Roger Goodell looks at him and says, yeah, that's interesting, because that's not the issues that we have. The issues that we have with replacement refs, it's a huge pain in the neck to make sure that they are able to actually referee the game and they've got the rules and they're ready to go. But if you think that that annoyance is enough to give in to your demands, then you are woefully underestimating Roger Goodell and the NFL. The refs will end up settling and will get a deal, whether it is in week 1, week 2, or week 3 like it was in 2012, or whether it's before the first preseason game. A deal will get done. And much like the WNBA deal, it will be a deal that will be exactly what the NFL wants it to look like. Just wait. Nothing personal pick of the day. Pick of the day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. It's tournament time, baby. Right now, Wisconsin, on their way to the Final Four, has to get past High Point. I'm sorry, Dan Le Batard and Trista and everybody else. You think that Wisconsin's not going to crush today? They're going to crush, baby. Go Badgers. Wisconsin minus 10.5 over High Point. And Duke, don't be scared of 27.5 points. If you think Siena's going to score more than 40 points, you're looking at like a final score of 75-40. I would have taken minus 34 in this game. Duke, 27.5 over Siena. It's a double nothing personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We'll be back in just a couple minutes, and today's the last show of the week, which means guess who's here? It's Coca time. As someone who's always on the go and still wanting to hit my protein goals each day, I find it hard to get that done without some help. Breakfast can be a bit chaotic for me, and that's why after the show, I grab myself a Black Edition ready to drink. Our friends at Huel have perfected a high-protein drink for all of us who are on the go, and my go-to is the iced coffee in the morning. It's a complete meal packed with 35 grams of protein, 27 essential. Yes, it does have 27 essential vitamins and minerals, no artificial sweeteners, and it actually tastes good. On days where I'm home, I'll use the Black Edition powder. I can make a smoothie. I can throw in whatever I want to customize it for that day. Or I can add just water and shake it up. Having both the ready-to-drink and the powder in my kitchen keeps me from falling off my routine. I got a limited time offer for you. Get Huel today with my exclusive offer of 15% off online with my code Samson15. Go to Huel.com, Samson15. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. Remember, fill out that post-checkout survey and you'll be supporting NPDS. I like Coca time. I admit it. Coca's got a lot to say, and I want you to hear what he talks about before the show. You know, Levitard started that pre-show where you get, 3, 4, or 5 minutes that is really just audio. If you could hear some of the pre-show that Coca does and gives me, I want him to bring it each Thursday for an hour. So hurry up, Coca, because you're worked up today. Why are you so worked up? Was it from being in Florida? Was it the travel? Are you tired? Grumpy?
Why do you always do that? Why do you always say, "Oh, you're worked up"?
Because you are always worked up.
Yeah, but I wasn't. What did I do in the pre-show meeting that felt to you that I was worked up?
What do you got for me today? Tell me something good.
So nothing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to take any more time.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that you kept out of your whole review of the World Baseball Classic that I think that people really would be interested in hearing about is what your emotions were like and the experience was like for you to be in Marlins Park. I won't call it Lone Depot Park, but to be in Marlins Park and to see the crowd and to feel the energy and just know that after everything that you went through to build the stadium and the anger that you caused for so many people, but to see the joy and the cheering and the dancing and the partying that was going on inside that stadium with you there and just being able to be a fan and to witness that, what was that like for you sort of mentally and emotionally?
I said I told you so to a lot of people, and they didn't really know what I was talking about because they didn't know really who I was. Although people recognize me more for nothing personal than being the former Marlins president. But I went to the concession stands and I said to the automated concession screen, "Told you so." I went around to no, Coca, I loved it. I mean, come on, man. We dreamt about it. I put this on Twitter at David P. Samson, Coca. We literally thought about this every day of construction. Every day as we were negotiating the terms of the new ballpark, it didn't occur to me that there'd be 5,000 fans or 8,000 fans ever. It didn't occur to me that I'd ever be not working for the Marlins. I thought that it would be owned and I'd be the president forever and that we'd be playing in front of 2 million fans plus every year. I thought that it would be perfect. I thought there'd be development around the ballpark. I thought that what I saw Tuesday night would be a Tuesday. But I don't have one bit of regret or sadness about anything because the joy that you're describing, if I didn't properly sell that to you in the first hour or every other time we've talked WBC, then I'm remiss. Everybody loved it. And you know what? That's good enough for me. Even if it's just one night out of a year, which it's not, that would be good enough for me.
I think the only changes that I would make to the WBC is there needs to be something done about the quarterfinal and just the quarterfinal. I think it could be more like Champions League soccer where you have the home and home, but then you do an aggregate score. Just because you have fans traveling from, Korea and Japan and, it could have been Australia and you have them flying all the way over here and you want to make this like more of a, sort of like festival, right? Like you want fans in town for more days, and the way to do that is to get more games. But then you have so many people saying, hey, we should move the WBC to the All-Star break and have it, a week-long thing during the All-Star break where everybody's playing over here. I don't think that would help, because I still like the qualification games being played overseas. Like, I think that
The
works.
pool games?
Yeah, the pool games. Like, I think that works for allowing fans in those regions to get to more games. But when it like becomes something that matters and you get to these knockout stages, I just wish that they had more time, because you could feel the energy from these fans, right? Like, I was there for the Korea game, and it felt like more Korean fans would have showed up if they would have known that, like, hey, we have a chance of being here for more than one game, right? The Japanese fans were also great when they're out there in center field and they have all the drums and they're loud and they're cheering. You had some of them who stayed and they became Venezuela fans, but, they deserved a little bit more than just that one opportunity.
Do you feel that way about the World Cup? You said Champions League does this. Does the World Cup, FIFA's World Cup, they're in the knockout stage? It's the knockout stage.
Yeah, but you're playing all the group stage games here. Like, you're playing them here. There's a host nation for all the group stage games.
So I was just trying to think to myself how it would work to have a tournament where it's double. You can't do aggregate score because there's mercy rule in the WBC. And so an aggregate score would be that you'd have a team try to score 50 runs. So it would be like a double elimination. So you just want to add a game. You want to make the quarterfinals 2 out of 3, like a wild card round.
Yeah, but that's why I was going.
That?
Well, that's why I was going with aggregate score, because like if you're making it 2 out of 3,
then that in baseball.
Yeah, but you can. You would just get rid of the mercy rule, and then the game would go 9 innings. You could pull your starters, put in backups for the rest of the game. You could pitch a position.
But if it's
player,
aggregate score, you wouldn't do that. That's the whole point.
You would do that if you were the losing team, and you'd say like, hey, we'll get them tomorrow. We'll try and come back and win another game tomorrow.
Oh,
but,
I misunderstood what aggregate score is. I thought you add up the runs from both games to know who wins.
Yeah.
So you'd never put in a position player, because even if you're up 15 runs, you don't want to give the other team an extra 5 runs because it could screw you for the next day.
Yeah, but like if we're going with 3 games, like we're already running into problems where major league teams don't want their players to play. Right, where they don't want their pitchers to go. But something has to give, right? Something has to give, because you see the success of this, and you talk about global expansion and wanting to move into all these different markets, and the NFL is doing it with their international games. Like, the only way that you can see baseball doing something like this is to really capitalize on the World Baseball Classic, which has become the success that it has become. Because you're not going to play too many games, in South America, or going over to Japan, or trying to get games in Australia like they're doing in the NFL, because the season is so short that they get away with it. But in baseball, I feel like there's so much travel as it is to go from city to city to city to city, like teams do, that having the international games isn't something that you can put on every team's schedule to really expand. So with the Netflix deal, with the rise of Venezuela in this tournament and how good this Dominican Republic team was, Australia has had a chance to make it. The Korean League, you have teams from Ireland now where like their federation is like, hey, we want a team. Italy, right? Italy, for the first time, their country was showing games. So like, baseball is having its moment in a year in which it's going to be tough for them to keep this momentum because of the end of the CBA. So I'm just trying to think of ways in which they can use what they already have and just say, hey, we have, for this, because you have the Olympics coming up, right? So you have, 4 years to turn the WBC into something with actual sticking power globally.
Oh, I think it's got the sticking power. I think it's really a question of, what you're saying is fans, if you ask a fan when they travel to see their team internationally, like when American fans go to England to watch a game, I went to the first game, it was Dolphins-Giants, and I can't remember who won, and I mean that. I think the Giants beat the Dolphins in the first game ever in London, which would have been in 2000, maybe it was 2007. I don't know. I don't remember the year, Coca, but I don't remember the game specifically.
Yeah, the Giants won 13-10 in 2007.
So that was the first time, and you go for the experience. So as a fan of the Japanese fans, as an example, yeah, would it be better for your team to win? Of course, but part of the cost of doing business is that you make a commitment, financial and time, and you know the risk is that your team is going to lose. We're about to watch an NCAA tournament here in a couple hours, and there are fans who are going to travel, students who are going to travel to a region, and they're going to get one game. And you know what? I love that. I wish everything were single elimination. I'm a fan of no series at all because there's nothing like Game 7 and there's nothing like the NCAA tournament. It's like the NFL playoffs. The reason why it's so great is there's no margin for error. You lose, you go home. I love the tension of that. Part of what makes the NCAA tournament so amazing, the reason why you get that song at the end, isn't it because of all of the crazy upsets that can happen because a good team can have a bad day and that's the end of them? In a series, that wouldn't work that way. So I don't mind the one games, Coca, at all.
I wouldn't say I was listening to local sports radio, but it kept appearing on my social media where it's all of these New York City area sports radio people talking about the WBC and sort of poo-pooing it, right? Where it's like, oh, the players are coming out saying it's bigger than the World Series. And then you had Derek Jeter, saying his thing, all the people who are saying this weren't in the World Series. Why do people have such a problem with something that is such a success? Like if the players are saying, hey, we love the energy of the crowd. We love the stakes of this. The international players are coming out and just saying like, hey, this is the greatest thing that we'll ever do in our baseball careers. Why can't they just accept that at face value, that the players are being honest, right? That it actually is, to some of these players, the biggest thing for them is to play for their country and win this. Because when it comes Olympic time, right? When it's the Olympics, everybody is rooting for their own country, right? It's, we've got to beat the Canadians in hockey. We've got to do that. But like for whatever reason, we need people to stick up for the World Series. Like we understand it. It's a completely different thing. But if you saw the emotion of those players when Team USA lost that game and there were players crying, Aaron Judge is crying saying, I'm pissed off. I want to do this again.
Oh, did he cry?
Well,
I didn't see him crying. I saw the Venezuelan players cry.
Yeah, you have Daniel Palencia, the closer, who's crying before he throws the final pitch. This is not an exhibition, right? This is not an exhibition. This is a real world tournament that these players wanted to win. And I feel as if Bryce Harper's comments before the tournament where he said, this is not the Olympics, I think he regrets saying that because of how emotional the tournament ended up being for him. Right?
Do you think it's a coincidence that he went over to the Venezuelan side and started hugging them and came out with the quote after that we talked about in the first hour? That's not a coincidence, obviously. Does Bryce Harper really feel the way he felt? It's sort of like when you say something and then you change it and say the second thing, and you should generally tend to believe the first thing that came out of the person's mouth as how they really feel.
Yeah, and listen, speaking on Bryce Harper, he is a guy who is made for moments. Like that, it almost felt like there was never a doubt.
Terrible WBC.
Yeah,
terrible.
but when it mattered, what did he do? When it mattered, when he came up to the plate, what did he do?
He sat fastball and he connected. It's funny. If you speak to the people inside the game, Bryce Harper did not. I mean, yeah, he had a very important game-tying home run, but the offense was a major problem, and that's what they got to try to fix. Pitching is always ahead of hitting this early. In March, it's always going to be pitching ahead of hitting. And the exhibition games, the spring training games, where the U.S. was scoring 15 runs or 17 runs, and all of us thinking that the offense was this great lineup, At the end of the year, you'll look back on this lineup, the American lineup, and their numbers during the course of 162, it will be a far better lineup than Venezuela or DR or any of the other lineups, 1-9 for the U.S. But in a small little sample in March, it's hard to get the offense going with where the pitching is. There's a reason why, Mason Miller can blow 100 and Palencia is at 90, throwing 90, 98, 99, and you've got the bullpens just locked down. It's because we know that pitching is ahead of hitting.
I wouldn't.
I don't know.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that. I would more so say that this is where pitching is. Right? This is where we are. People you've never heard of are coming out of the bullpen and throwing 103 miles an hour. Like, that's stuff we've never seen before. So, like, starting pitching can struggle a little bit because you're seeing guys multiple times, throughout the course of the game. You'll see a guy 3, 4, 5 innings, and it's not like every country was throwing out their ace of all aces. Yeah, we had Skeens go, right? But these are his first starts of the season. You had Scooble go one game. But these guys who are coming out of the bullpen, like a Mason Miller or Palencia or some of these other guys, they're throwing over 100 miles an hour, right? They've got sinkers that are dropping off the plate that are 100 miles an hour. So it's just like, even if hitting caught up towards the end of the season, we are in a world right now where there are so many arms that are out there like we've never seen before in professional baseball.
What do you got on Scooble being in the dugout in uniform when he had left the team and then wanted to come back to be a part of the semis and finals? Because I can tell you what's going on internally in baseball.
Yeah, like I would have much rather him, why was he allowed to throw in why was he allowed to make a spring training start, but he couldn't throw, 3, 4 innings in a championship game in the WBC? Like, that's the part
Boris
that
would not
that
allow him.
Yeah, I don't understand that part of it, because couldn't he get hurt, pitching in spring training like he could get hurt pitching in the WBC? I would have rather him been like Jose Altuve, right? Altuve was at the game. Altuve was
in the stands.
Yeah, sitting in the stands cheering on Venezuela. So I just don't get that. And I hope you have a better explanation for us baseball fans, knowing that Scooble is making spring training starts, but he couldn't do anything in the WBC.
Well, clearly, if you watch spring training, there's a big difference between the adrenaline and how you approach a game during spring training in front of 5,000 people versus pitching for your country in front of 35,000 people. It's totally different, and the biggest complaint that teams have is they don't want their players in manufactured situations before their bodies are ready, because your brain will always tell you your body's ready and your body may not be ready. And that's the concern. But with Scooble, my point is he left the team. He literally, it's not that he was not pitching. You didn't see Goldschmidt play the last bunch of games. He got that one start. He didn't leave the team. He was right there in the dugout and ready to go. Scooble left the team, said, I'm going back, and he had all this inner turmoil. Remember all that stuff? Oh, I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to put on a hockey jersey and walk with the rest of the guys who were actually playing and then sit in the dugout. I don't know. It just bothered me. Maybe I'm predisposed to be bothered by a Boris client, or to think about what a player is like when they choose Boris as an agent. And everything is all manipulated. Everything is for PR. Everything is for appearances, and all of the inner turmoil and all of the back and forth crap. I just think the teammates were like, dude, either stay or leave, but don't do both. And that's what Scooble did. I'm grumpy about it. I admit it. Players who leave the team, we had so many players leave our team. It happens. I bet you over 18 years, I had 6 players just leave. Like, they're done. They left during spring training or during the regular season, whatever they did. You can't come back unless you tell me what your plan is, like Pudge Rodriguez left during the season, and he said, I'll be back in 3 days. Either we say yes or no, but what Scooble did, forget it.
So your Super Bowl is the Oscars, and I feel as though, as many years as we've done this, that everybody knows this about you, right? Like, you get more amped up for the Oscars than you do for any other thing that we probably do on this show, is the Oscars. So when you're watching the Oscars, what to you is the most important thing that should be happening that night? Is it the performances? Is it the monologue? Is it the speeches that people give? Is it we know your feelings about the in memoriam. Like, what to you should the night be about?
It's to celebrate movies. What I want the Oscars to be is a way to introduce movies to people who otherwise would not be introduced to them. I want, when you see Best Picture nominees or when you see Best Actor, Best Actress, I want you to become interested in getting swept away at the movies, swept away in the fantasy of the movies, swept away in learning something from the documentaries. I love when they show clips of performances or of specific movies because I want it like a trailer where people watch a trailer and then say, oh, I want to watch that. So that's my number one thing. My number two thing is I love seeing movie stars. I love hearing. It's not that I care what they say politically because it doesn't change what I think politically, but I don't get, Javier Bardem as a Jewish person. I was going to say as a Jew, but then as a Jewish person, I'm told you have to be angry at Javier Bardem. You have to be offended by what he said and how he dressed. Same with Spike Lee at the whatever game he was at the All-Star game. Like, this is how, if you're a good Jew, this is what you think. I've never really had that view. My view is I'm interested in what everybody thinks because my overarching philosophy, live and let live. Javier Bardem wants to give his opinion. Okay, give your opinion. I'm totally good. You've earned that right. You were asked to be on stage. You get to use that platform how you want, and I get to decide whether I agree or disagree or whether I'm willing to separate art from artist. But I look for those moments. I look for mistakes that are funny, like things that are organic that may not have been scripted. I look for history. What am I watching now that I'll be able to say in 5 years, wow, this was part of history? And you'll notice a through line here, Coca. It's the way I watch sports events too. I watch games the way I watch Oscars. I'm watching for moments, which is the through line to my life. The reason I do marathons and all the other crazy stuff is I'm just looking for moments. That's all I'm looking for. Connection and moments.
Today is all about Coca's changes. Because one of the things that I would change with the Oscars, I feel like you don't need that many performances from the host.
They've cut it down.
I don't need. Yeah, but here's my issue. Here's my issue. You just talked it up as being the biggest night in movies, right? This is it. This is their Super Bowl. So it's really offensive when somebody wins an Oscar and there's three people that go up on stage and they all had their hands in creating what was the best of whatever category it is. It is really offensive to play them off as they're speaking. Give these people their moment because this is their only moment. They may never make another movie as great as the movie that they just made. So give them that time. If it's 5 minutes, sure. Get whatever the time limit is.
Wait, is 5 minutes too long?
No. I'm saying I don't know what the time limit is. So I'm just giving out a time. I was just throwing out a time arbitrarily.
Okay.
But it happened with K-pop Demon Hunters, where they won for, I think it was the best animated
feature.
Animated feature. And as the third person is speaking, they just start playing them off and they cut them off in the middle of their speech and they go on. But that's what the night should be about. The night should be about those people. The people who made the movies. Let them speak.
I've got the solution for you.
Okay.
Two things. One, we're going to limit the number of people on stage. Because when people are on stage, they feel like they've got the right and the desire to talk. If you only get one person, you get to decide who the person will be. That person goes on stage and that person talks. But what interests me about sort of the Oscars and the timing, don't forget that in 2029, it's going to YouTube. It's going off broadcast TV. There will not be commercial interruptions or a time limit on the show. If the right amount is a 5-hour show or a 3-hour show or a 1-hour show, whatever it is, it's moving to YouTube, which is a fascinating change in how we are getting our information, how we're getting our events, in that it's streaming. So look for that, and that will be a change. In terms of performances, Think about the Grammys and the MTV Music Video Awards or all the different award shows, the Emmys. Performances are a really important part of it. And I'm upset they no longer play all the songs. They used to go through every best original song. There'd be a performance of all 5 nominated songs. They did just the song from Sinners and the song from K-Pop Demon Hunters, which you must have loved. 2 songs out of 5. That's not right.
Yeah, I think just get rid of the host. Get rid of the host. Get rid of the monologue.
They did that.
And
they
just
did that.
and just go straight. Just go straight presenting the awards. Then you can mix in your performances that you love so much. You can get your in memoriam. Maybe next time, don't invite Barbara Streisand, and we can. It'll be magic.
So why do you have an MC, Coca? In general, MCs are at events. They're called masters of ceremony. You can call them a host, whatever you want to call them. But the reason why that job exists is it's like having a train without a conductor. It's like having a team without a coach. You need somebody who is doing something to keep the ball moving forward, even if it looks like you don't agree with the allocated times. I meant to ask this question during the first hour and during the post-Oscar show we did. Steve Kerr won an Oscar. Steve Kerr was a producer of the Oscar-winning short documentary called All the Empty Rooms, which was about going to look at bedrooms of kids who had died on gun violence, and Steve Kerr's dad died of gun violence, so he became a producer. He's one of, I think there's 4 NBA guys who now have an Oscar. Kobe, you remember that when Kobe won? I think Shaq has an Oscar. I can't remember. Is it LeBron who won an Oscar and now Steve Kerr? But in any case, I want to know from Steve Kerr, would he prefer an NBA championship or an Oscar? Because Kobe, when that Oscar was won, don't forget, it's a huge thing. So did anyone ask Steve Kerr, did you see any of his PR availability? Because I forgot to look and I forgot to discuss it pre-show with you. But I do wonder, maybe we'll cover this next week, but when he was asked about it, I want to know what his reaction was. But I hope you watch All the Empty Rooms, Coca.
Yeah, his quote was, "I didn't have anything to do with the making of the film, but I am very proud to be associated with it."
So is he taking the statuette or is he turning down the Oscar?
I'm not sure, but it's Steph Curry, not LeBron, is the other.
Curry.
Yeah, that's the other
Thank
NBA
you.
player. Well, speaking of the NBA, I would like to take this time and talk directly to Giannis Antetokounmpo, because I know that he listens to the show. I know he's a huge fan of the show. Do you want us to be on your side, or do you want us to not care? Like, what exactly do you want from us fans? Because we are on year number 2 now of trying to figure out if you want to be in Milwaukee for the rest of your career, or if you want to be traded and win a championship with a different city. Because you did what you needed to do, right? You won a championship for the Milwaukee Bucks. We got it. Then you tried to do something else, and they tried to get Dame Lillard. It didn't work out. Okay, we understand. You guys tried it. It didn't work out. But now we have this circus where we're trying to figure out if you want to go to another team, and you're telling us, hey, the front office knows that I want to win a ring, and if they're not trying, I'm out of here. And then the trade deadline comes, and you say, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. This is my city. I've worked it out with the front office. Then everybody attacks Shams because Shams has been saying, hey, Giannis doesn't want to be there. I've spoken to Giannis's camp. He doesn't want to be there. Everybody attacks Shams for saying, no, this is fake news. Look at Giannis. He wants to be there. And now we've reached another point where the Bucks want to shut you down because you have an issue with your knee. You don't want to be shut down, and you want to play out the rest of the season. But now it looks like you guys are in another fight, another tussle. So I just want to know, what side of this do you want us to be on? Do you want us to be on Team Giannis? Do you want us to be on Team Bucks? Do you want to be a Buck? Do you want to go to the Heat? Do you want to go to another team? Just let us know. No more riddles. Just come out and say, hey, listen, I enjoyed my time. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish. I wish it could have been different, but it's time for a new journey, a new chapter of the book of Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's all we're asking for. So please, just give us that.
That's a 3-minute rant by Coca right there on Giannis. Okay, so what do you want me to do with that? So let me tell people the story if they don't know it. The Bucks want to get a better shot at the top pick in the lottery, at moving up in the lottery. To do that, you have to lose games. It's called tanking. The Bucks are not going to make the playoffs. There's 10 games left. It's not like there's 50 games left. As a matter of fact, do I have that wrong, Coca? How many games are left for the Milwaukee Bucks? What are we talking about here? The season's got to end here in the next 3 weeks. I can't imagine there's more than 15 games left at most. So this is not the end of the world. The Bucks
they're at 68 games. So there's 14 games left, and they are 6.5 games behind the Hornets for the play-in.
It's done.
For the final play-in spot.
They're out. They're eliminated, not mathematically. So why wouldn't you shut down? Every time you watch Giannis do the Euro step, he's one step closer to a broken ankle or a torn Achilles. It's like I never understood pitching your best pitchers in games against other teams where it doesn't matter. At the end of a baseball season, there's only so many bullets that a pitcher has in his arm. I never liked the idea of wasting bullets of really good players in games that don't matter. But for competitive reasons, when you're playing another team that's in the race, you've got to put your best out there in order to further the integrity of the game. But the Bucks are smart to shut him down if he's not perfect. Does this not sound like the Raiders and Crosby? Where the Raiders tried to shut down Crosby, and they did because they're in charge, and Crosby was annoyed and was playing pickup basketball in his gym, and then obviously the trade to your team that didn't work. But this has been going on forever, where there is a back and forth between management and players. I don't want a player like Giannis to come out publicly and agree to be shut down. I want Giannis to come out and say, man, I want to play, I want to win. So all this to me is normal and standard, and it really did not strike me as that we needed to decide whether we're on Team Giannis or not.
Yeah, which is funny because you've said that Giannis is going to be traded for 2 years now. So it's just like this
eventually
is just
that wait to see is going to come true.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is that this is just the next step to something like that happen. So I don't understand why a leak is coming out about him being angry about the handling of this situation, because tanking in this case is helping him. Because right now the Bucks have a 13.9% chance of getting a top 4 pick. If they finish behind the Bulls, that moves to a 20% chance of getting a top 4 pick. So they are increasing their chances to get a top 4 pick and to move up in the lottery, which would only help out Giannis. So for him to be angry about this situation, it's like you can't have it every way. You can't say that the team's not trying to help you, and then in a situation where they are trying to help you, you come out angry that they are trying to help you.
But maybe he wants... There could be other things going on. Maybe he's looking at career points or career games played, or there's some stats where he's got a chance to be amongst the best or to catch somebody. And if he doesn't get these 14 games, I mean, you never know what's going on inside the head of a player or the player's agent. It's very hard to say that it's all about the city or the team or your teammates or your coach or your fans. Pretty often it's about the players themselves, and that level of selfishness is fine by me because it exists in all parts of life. As a selfish person, I can tell you I'm not against people being selfish. As long as you don't violate my rule, I'm good with being selfish.
So one of the biggest stories to come out in the hockey world right now is
I love this.
Is Jack Hughes against the Hockey Hall of Fame.
He's so pissed.
He wants the golden puck. He wants the puck that won the Olympics. He thinks that he deserves that puck. He thinks that he owns that puck because he was the goal scorer. But the puck was given to the Hockey Hall of Fame, which I just found out was in Canada. I did not know that as I was formulating my thoughts on who is about to get the wrath of Coca. I did not know that. I thought that there was just like a Hall of Fame in the United States, right? Like,
do you know where the Hall of Fames are for the other sports? I'm going to rattle them off. Ready? Major League Baseball.
Oh, you're asking me these Cooperstown.
NFL.
Canton, Ohio.
NBA.
I believe that's in Springfield, right? Is that
Springfield? Yes. Do you know what
state? I'm going to say Massachusetts.
Okay, great. NHL.
Well, there you go. I didn't even know it was in Canada, so I don't know
It's
where
in
that one
Toronto.
is.
So you had 3 out of 4 to start with, and now you've learned the 4th. Good for you. Yeah, it's in Toronto. It's fun. If you've never been to Toronto, have you ever been to Toronto?
I've never been to Toronto. No,
Oh,
I've only been to Montreal.
It is a great city. I love Toronto. The Hall of Fame is super cool. And I just feel for Jack Hughes in this case. He just has it wrong. Do you know that the final out of the World Series, when a player, like if you get the final out at first base because it's a ground ball to center to shortstop, or you're the center fielder and you catch the ball, or you're Josh Beckett and you have the ball in your hand and tag the runner out, do you know those balls belong to the team? Just FYI, players do not get to keep those items at all. We gave Josh Beckett, and he'll tell you, and it's funny, I was not going to let that ball out of my glove. I was keeping it. Well, we let him do that, but we could have just as easily said, no, that ball is ours. It's a very simple rule. The union's aware of it. The players are aware of it. Before the tournament, before the Olympics, all the Olympic players are aware of it. Golden goal or your own goal, you can ask for it, but it is not your right to have. And I feel for Jack Hughes because he's way over his skis on this, trying to explain that it's his to have, and he's angry with the Hall of Fame for taking it. I just think he could have had a better approach if he had known what the rules are, and he could have embraced it, or he could have said, hey, it's your property, but can I just display it for the next 5 years? Can I have it every other year? There are deals like that you can cut with a piece of memorabilia where the ownership remains with the team or with the Hall of Fame, but you can have it. So I think he could have gone a lot of directions, and he went the angry direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still sort of on the fence, right? Like I feel like that moment wouldn't have happened had he not scored that goal. Right? Like somebody had to have scored the goal to win the championship in a situation like that. Where
If
it's
you
like
work
a golden
for a
goal.
company, Coca, though, listen, it's so important. People misunderstand this. If you work for a pharmaceutical company and you discover cancer, do you believe that that is your discovery? Or is it the company's discovery?
Yeah, but I don't like when you do these analogy things. Like, why can't we just stick to what we're talking about?
Because I want you to understand. I want the audience to understand that just
but wouldn't they
because it
understand
feels
sports
good-
more?
Well, then I gave them the baseball example. I'll give them any example
Yeah,
you
but
want.
if the score was 6-1, USA wins the game 6-1. Is the Hockey Hall of Fame going to bring all 6 pucks to the Hall of Fame and display all 6 pucks?
That's not the point. They could. They wouldn't, but they could. So we're talking about ownership. We're not talking about preference. In baseball, it's very different. The Hall of Fame has to ask permission of the team or of the player, depending on whose item it is, because the Hall of Fame is a separate entity. The Hall of Fame is part of, and it was known before the Olympics that these are basically the Hall of Fame will get anything it wants. And so I just, there's no surprise. That's all. I just wanted the audience to understand.
It just feels very selfish of the Hall of Fame to want
have
that
something that's for everybody to see instead of on the mantle in Jack Hughes' house that I'll never be invited to. It's selfish.
Because people are like, oh, let me get on a plane right now. I need to fly to the Hall of Fame so I can go look at a puck.
Oh my God!
Like, get real, dude. Dude, there is nobody showing up right now to the Hall of Fame being like, I need to see that puck. Please, I need to see it. Where is that puck? Where's the puck? Because if that was the case, then any home run hit that was a major home run should immediately be taken away from a fan, and it should be going directly to the Baseball Hall of Fame so it could be displayed there, because people need to see Barry Bonds' record-setting home run, and if they don't see it, they're never going to the Hall of Fame. Like, I just feel that in this situation, it is a little selfish because of the fact in the way in which the game was won, where Jack Hughes scored it in overtime and it was a golden goal, that the Hall of Fame is saying, no, we need this. Sorry, this is our puck. But in a different situation where the game would have been 6-1, they wouldn't have been like, we need all 6 pucks in the Hall of Fame
I heard
because
you.
this is the game in which the USA won, and we want to display all 6 pucks. So I just feel in this
I
situation,
want to protect you, but
I can understand. Protect me from what, dude? It's an opinion.
you're right. So I'm going to move on. So no, from the selfish side, that is an opinion. Obviously, everything we do on a show is opinion. So none of us need protection from our opinions, obviously. But it's the opposite of selfish to display. It's like with art in a museum, but you don't like analogies. The reason why you want certain art not in a private collection is you want the world to be able to look at it and see it. So when you say people don't get on planes to go see a puck, that's just
But
funny
if
to me.
the artist asks for their painting back from a museum, do you feel as if
No, they don't get it.
Okay.
It just doesn't work that way. That it literally doesn't work that way. But again, your generation, and I'm not trying to talk down at you, but you have this utopian view of how things work, and it just doesn't, and you don't want to hear it. Maybe you want to change it, that you can go to a museum. By the way, it'd be amazing. Can you imagine if a baseball player could go to Cooperstown and just say, oh, by the way, I'm the 3rd generation descendant of Babe Ruth. Give me that jersey. That's funny.
I mean,
work that way.
How do museums acquire their art then?
They buy it, or it gets given to them, donated to them.
Donated by who?
In some cases, the artist himself or herself, or a private collector is looking for a tax benefit.
Or it's stolen from the people, and then it's displayed, and then those people ask for that art back, and the museum is like, no, we're not going to give it, even though it's stolen art.
There's some great movies about that with what happened in World War II with the Nazis who did actually steal art and then display it, and how that art would get returned to its rightful owners. But no, in general, that I'm not discussing the Nazis and how they acquired art. I'm not discussing people stealing stuff and pretending it's their own. No. That is not good. He's not. Listen, you don't think that money and assets have anything to do with this, then I'm alone, I guess, in that thought. But it sounded like Jack was like, I want that. I want the value of that. So I bet you Team USA let them keep a jersey. If I had to guess, we let our players, the jerseys are ours. But did you know at the end of every season, in return for them, the players signing jerseys, we would present them with one of their own jerseys for their own collection. That's how players get to keep their own jerseys, because they're not theirs. They have no rights to them, but they're ours. But we would make a trade, sign these, and then you can keep that. And every
what if a player
year
doesn't give their jersey back? What do you do? What if they're just like,
stolen.
no, we're not.
I've never had that, so I don't know. I've never had a player steal a jersey. That's funny.
Like the players that won the World Series, like if your World Series team was like, dude, you're not getting this jersey back. Like, what are you doing in that situation? If the team was just like, nah,
I've never had that happen. You mean like they'd wear it out of the stadium so they wouldn't have it laundered by our clubbies? Like, that's funny, I guess. It is true that you could have a player just leave the celebration. It's like Tom Brady. Do you remember? I remember this so well. Tom Brady had a ball stolen, the final ball in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you remember this, Coca. He claims during the Super Bowl celebration, the gamer that he had got stolen and was gone, and he was angry about that. And I remember laughing that, wow, that was given to you. That's not your ball at all, Tom. So, yeah, that's a great one. If a player would like just not even shower and they'd wear their jersey
but what would you
shirt,
do? But what would you do?
I mean,
is that a fight you're willing to have?
Yes.
That's the PR hit that you're willing to have, is that, hey,
that a player walks out in a dirty jersey and say, dude, give me my jersey back? Yeah, I don't think that I have a hard time with the PR of that, but it literally never happened over 18 years. So there's never been a player that
I don't know, man. I feel like your priorities are in weird places. If that's the fight that you're willing to have, if it's like, hey, we need that, but I'm saying it would have turned into a fight if the players were like, we're leaving with our World Series winning jerseys, and you're like, I'm suing the entire 2003 starting Marlins lineup because they will not give their jerseys back to the team so that we can display them in in the stadium.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen, but that's funny if it would. I'm trying to think if I ever had guys who didn't shower, even the bench guys who don't get in the game, they all shower after the game because you're sweating and, you're going out to dinner after that. I'm pretty sure that there was never a player. We have plenty of players who came in to a night game not having showered since the night before. That's for sure. Or an afternoon game having not come home. But I don't think we ever had a player not shower. And once you shower, the jersey, it's in the basket. There's baskets all over the clubhouse where you put your laundry in. Yeah, that's funny. Thank you, Coca. That's a good visual.
Where do you think the prediction market ends? Like, what do you think the obvious outcome? Do you just think it is just regulation? Do you think that they're going to go away? Do you think that they're going to have to, just dissolve and we are going to be left with DraftKings, FanDuel, and Hard Rock, all these other sports books, BetMGM? Or do you think that there is a place for prediction markets to survive? Because right now you have Arizona, who has now filed criminal charges. And I believe this is the first time criminal charges have been filed against the prediction market. And that's what happened with Kalshi, where they're accusing them of operating illegal gambling businesses. Like, normally it's like, hey, you can't operate in our state, right? But now we have the criminal charges that have been filed against these companies. What do you think the obvious outcome is, other than just regulation? Like, do you think there is a place
where
they can survive?
What they're saying is it's like a dice game on the street or one of those Tobey Maguire poker games with Chauncey Billups. That's what they're saying is happening with these prediction markets, because what they're saying is we never passed gambling, legal online gambling, and on these prediction markets you can bet the games, as you know. So now Arizonans are able to just bet whatever they want. And what do I think the reality is? That there will be 50 states where betting is legal. And there will be the ability to have prediction markets, which is simply the gambling companies having to come to grips with what the customer wants. And what the customer wants is the ability to bet on anything. I do love some of the lawsuits and some of the legislation and regulation that, hey, we're not going to allow you to predict when wars start and when assassinations could happen, because we saw what happened with Iran and what happened with Venezuela. But you are certainly going to see sports betting in 50 states, is my opinion, and not because DraftKings is a sponsor. I just believe that is something that is going to end up being federal, and it will end up being approved in all 50 states. And that's just the reality of what people want. If no one gambled on sports, there wouldn't be sports gambling. It's sort of like hotel porn. It just doesn't make sense to me when people say, oh, nobody does it. Well, then it would disappear. The economy has a way of really telling us what people are doing. Market forces in economics are always the most important things to look at. And for whatever reason, there are people who just don't understand that as it relates to gambling.
I'm just waiting for these prediction markets to have markets for will this other prediction market, or will we be sued? Will we have criminal charges filed against us? Because I don't believe that you can go on Polymarket and bet, will Kalshi shut down now that it has been sued? But why do you not have those markets, right? Like, why are you protecting yourself?
Because I assume the way those markets work is because there aren't people on both sides of those arguments. It's not something that people are betting on, because I think the prediction markets are user driven. Like, people come up with markets they want to bet on and see if they can find someone on the other side. And that is sort of like the marketplace. It's like social media. You're looking for engagement. You're looking for people to want to engage with you to increase your platform. So if there were a market for it, and this Arizona suit, and Coca, we gave it a little short shrift today, but not for long, because this is a huge, huge case, and the implications are far-reaching.
Well, the only thing people can bet on the nothing personal market with their bippies is that the show is over now, but we will be back on Monday.
Have a good weekend, Coca. Thank you very much, everybody. Guess what? NCAA tournament, go Badgers. It's just business. We'll be back Monday. This is nothing personal.